First Deputy Mayor Randy Mastro has hit the ground running with an ambitious agenda that has City Hall humming with activity. And you know, Randy, it's hard to keep pace with all the things that you've done since you became the first deputy mayor, but I do want to start off by talking about the Office to Combat Anti-Semitism, which was announced actually last week. And my question is this: what can this office accomplish since there's been a huge increase in the number of incidents of anti-Semitism?
Well, Marcia, that's why it's so compelling that we formed such an office, that this mayor showed the vision and the leadership to be the first big city to establish a mayor's office to combat anti-Semitism. Because in the first quarter of this year, 62% of all the hate crimes in this city were against Jews. All the other groups that have experienced hate crimes don't even come close to the hate crimes against Jews. Now, that's just unacceptable. So what can an office like this do? It can educate, it can set a tone, and it can also set policy. And I said the day we formed this office that you would see concrete action within 2 weeks, and you'd see a series of actions from that point forward that showed our commitment to combat anti-Semitism in concrete ways: executive orders, legislation, education. You're going to see it, and it's going to be impactful because this mayor has spoken out with such passion and conviction. Having come from a background where he experienced hate and prejudice, his commitment to combat anti-Semitism, how he spoke out after October 7th, the affinity he feels with people who are subject to discrimination. This is personal for him, and I could not be more proud to be a part of his administration that he's doing this.
But yet, it seems to many that Jew hate is sort of ingrained in a lot of people. So how can you legislate? How can you do executive orders that can go to people's basest feelings of hatred?
What you just said is the reason why you need to have zero tolerance for it. And we will have zero tolerance.
So what kind of legislation can you do?
Well, I don't want to get ahead of the mayor.
I was just trying to maybe create some news or what a concept.
I'm giving you news every day. The mayor is giving you news every day.
Absolutely.
So stay tuned, but I think you will see as early as this coming week the kinds of things that a mayor can do, not only to set the tone, but in concrete action. And Mayor Adams will do them.
So I wanted to ask you about the mask legislation that was passed by the legislature, which some people felt didn't go far enough, because it basically says if you wear a mask in the commission of a crime, it's added on as an extra charge. But what about outlawing wearing masks at protests and things like that?
Again, I don't want to get ahead of the mayor, but I think the mayor has already spoken publicly on this. He doesn't think state law went far enough. And I think you will be hearing more from us on that subject too very soon. So stay tuned.
Obviously put my finger on an issue. Let's talk about the Kahlani concert that was canceled in Central Park because of anti-Semitic statements that were made. A number of city council members are calling on you to reverse that. They're calling on the Parks Foundation to reverse that. What's your position on that?
Wow, I find that sad. We have zero tolerance for anti-Semitism, and we also have zero tolerance for creating security concerns in the use of public facilities. The Parks Foundation made this decision, but I did write on behalf of the mayor and the administration to say they really should reconsider. Divisive would have been a security concern, and we have zero tolerance for anti-Semitism. Cornell University said, no, I'm not going to have a concert by that artist. All right? So I can't tell you how many people, how many elected officials, how many people from the city council I got calls from privately saying, aren't you going to do something about this? So I don't think the city council members who are doing this now are speaking. I don't think they're speaking for the body, and I don't think they're speaking for most New Yorkers.
So one of the other big ticket things that you've done recently this past week was to unveil a new program for redesigning Fifth Avenue, and it includes reducing the number of traffic lanes from 4 to 3, which may not please all the drivers in the city, but it has new trees and it's going to rejuvenate the area. Why now?
Well, we're the greatest city in the world, and we should have the greatest avenue in the world. The fact of the matter is that Fifth Avenue, our street of dreams, needed an upgrade. And the businesses on Fifth Avenue came to us and said, can you help? And this administration answered the call. And transformative projects like this are what make New York City great, what draws economic activity and tourists. So from the public library on 40th Street all the way up to Central Park South, you are going to see this beautiful tree-lined pedestrian boulevard that's going to rival the Champs-Élysées. It is a wonderful project, and that Mayor Adams has had the vision and leadership to support this. The city's putting in over $400 million, and the local businesses are putting in over $20 million. It is going to be a legacy achievement all New Yorkers can be proud of.
How long will it take to do?
It will take a number of years. It should be done starting in 28, should be done by 30-31. But the aim is to do it as much as possible in chunks that are at one time, so it's less disruptive to the city as a whole, but it's going to just be beautiful.
So since we're talking about dates, there's another date that people think about, and that is the year 2027, when Rikers Island is supposed to close. And many people, including the mayor, as a matter of fact, have questioned whether or not that's actually a doable date, and maybe the city council should reconsider, given the fact that A, the local jails that are being built are behind schedule, and also they only hold 4,100 people, and there are now over 7,000 people on Rikers Island. What do you do with all these people?
So I think there's a general recognition, including by the commission that originally proposed the closure of Rikers, and city council representatives who've pushed for that as well, that the 2027 closure date isn't realistic any longer. I think there's also a growing recognition that there are some fundamental issues with this plan. You just pointed out one of them. There's over 7,000 incarcerated at Rikers, but the borough-based jails only provide for a little over 4,000. And there's the problem that most of those incarcerated Rikers have mental illness problems diagnosed, many of them serious mental illness problems. So as the mayor has said, rightly, at least one of those facilities, one of those borough-based jails, should be focused on those who are in need of, mental illness services. So there's a lot that we have to do to improve this plan to make it work. But 2027 isn't realistic.
So if you need to decide that one of the jails would be dedicated to people who need mental health services, does that mean that the jail has to be redesigned to deal with those needs?
There will be some redesign elements in at least one of the facilities. They're not all at phases of construction where it would be any kind of problem to do that. We can do that, and it just makes sense. Sometimes we have to use both our heads and our hearts, and what makes sense is to have at least one of those borough-based jails be for mental illness and the incarceration of those who need those services.
So what role so the federal judge just appointed a remediation manager, for lack of a better phrase, to oversee Rikers, but what role will that federal overseer have once you move from Rikers to these borough-based jails, if at all, or will it revert back to city control?
Should be zero. Marcia, I've said this before, the solution to problems in city agencies is one for executives, administrators, mayors, and their teams to solve. Court oversight is never the answer or the ultimate answer, and in fact, the judge acknowledged that our latest commissioner, she's been doing a great job, and she's made many improvements, and many of the things that the court ordered there be oversight of are areas where she's already, by the court's admission, implemented changes. So we're moving in the right direction. We inherited these problems. That's where this lawsuit came from what the prior administration was doing. And there's been massive improvements since. Again, I don't think court supervision is ever the way, but it's not going to affect the Rikers closure plan or any of our other plans.
Well, we're going to have to leave it right there for now, but we'll be right back. We are back with First Deputy Mayor Randy Mastro, who is the problem solver extraordinaire of the Adams administration. So here's a problem. I know it's not exactly the mayor's problem, but people are upset about fare evasion, and they wonder, given the fact that you do have a new quality of life offensive in the NYPD, if there's anything in that quality of life offensive that could deal with fare beating.
The short answer is yes. People.
What's the long answer?
Okay. People are upset about fare beaters. They're upset about e-bikes almost, crashing into them on a regular basis. They're upset about the daily assaults on quality of life that they see with too many who have mental illness or addiction problems out on the street who are homeless. That's why just last month, again, one of the things I'm so proud of this administration for doing, we established the police department a 1,500 cop unit just to focus on quality of life crimes. Because reality is that crime is down, and crime is down by historic proportions when it comes to murders and shootings. It's down double digits on major crimes, down double digits in the subways. But the perception of crime has to meet the reality. And how do you do that? You do that the way we did it back in the late 1990s, through focusing on quality of life crimes and showing New Yorkers that we can make them feel safer in their daily lives. Fortunately, most New Yorkers don't experience a serious crime because they're down to record low levels, but they do experience those daily assaults on quality of life, and that's what we're addressing now. And in the coming months, I think you're going to see major improvements.
So when people jump the fare box or jump over the turnstile or walk through the emergency gate, should they be arrested for it? Should they be stopped? Should they get a desk appearance ticket? What's the proper thing to do?
There are things that should be done to call it out and make it have consequences. And I think when people experience consequences, they change their behavior.
Okay. I want to move right along. You have a lot of experience under your belt in the public and private sectors, for sure. Is there any accomplishment that you're most proud of?
Wow. Well, now you're. I'm only in my second month on the job.
I know, but you've done so much already.
And I am so proud of everything that this mayor is doing. The energy level, his enthusiasm for the job. I came into an administration where, crime is down, jobs are up by record levels, affordable housing being created at an unprecedented level, transformative public works projects like the one just announced for the future of Fifth Avenue, and a commitment to early childhood education. The mayor funding universal after school, baselining culturals, helping libraries, more money to clean up streets and parks. I could not be more proud of all of those things, but of all we've done so far in these first 2 months, I'm super proud of the mayor for creating the mayor's office to combat anti-Semitism. I think that is so important in our city with the largest Jewish population of any city in the world. We have to stand up and be a clarion call that it's not acceptable here.
So do you remember your first job?
I do.
And what was it?
Well, you're going to be shocked when you hear what it was. I was a reporter. For a local newspaper.
No.
And then went on to be an editor of the Yale Daily, and then worked at the Washington Post before I went to law school.
Oh my God, seriously?
Seriously.
So you have an appreciation for what we actually do?
I completely have an appreciation. And every time a reporter asks a tough question there, in City Hall in the Blue Room,
you cringe, I
go, that used to be me.
So, all right, share your wisdom. What advice would you give young people who are graduating from college about what they should do with their work lives?
I think the most important thing is to choose a career that you have a passion for.
That's exactly what I tell my son.
Okay, I mean, because if you have a passion for what you're doing, you will put your heart and soul into it. What we do in public service, there's dignity in public service. And what we do, we have a passion for. We want to succeed because it helps improve others' lives. We love New York, and we want to do everything we can to improve quality of life, economic opportunity, give affordable housing, good education, economic opportunity, safe city for New Yorkers. And that's a passion project, and that's what we in this administration are doing. We have a passion for our work.
You sound like you have a passion for this work.
I definitely do, and I'm so proud of this administration and this mayor and this team.
So let me ask you something. Mayor Adams has a passion for technology. Do you share that passion?
So I can't claim to be a techie myself, but I have a passion for it because I know it's the future. And there are so many things that we have done that reflect that. You know, we just put $50 million into this budget to bring broadband to NYCHA housing so that everyone who lives in public housing has the same opportunity to connect with the internet. Today, that is essential, and this mayor did that. And his appreciation for tech as our future, that's why he's such a strong mayor.
Crypto?
He's into crypto.
Are you into crypto?
I know nothing about crypto. I am not claiming to know anything about crypto, but he does, and he is committed to it. We just had a crypto summit this week.
I know.
And I think you're going to be hearing more about that in the future, too. So stay tuned.
All these teasers.
Stay tuned. You're going to be hearing more about that.
Okay, so what about AI? How do you feel about that, and what's its role in New York City?
Well, obviously, AI is integral to our future as a society. And you can already see the ways in which it is improving how quickly we are able to accumulate information and use it. AI is a tool. It doesn't replace the human element. Good judgment comes from people, not from machines.
So I wonder what your thoughts are about universal basic income, and whether it has a role to play as we bridge the gap into the future.
Yeah. You're asking me for my personal views. I'm not expressing the views of the administration. I think that government has a role in helping people up the ladder, but I don't think that that is the solution.
Okay. Do you have a creative side?
I have a very creative side.
So? I mean, do you paint? I know you obviously were a reporter once, so you write? I mean,
I love to write. I love to write, so you can see that I've already been writing op-eds since I've been back at City Hall. So I love to write. And on the creative side, you know, I chair a film festival. I co-chair it with Alec Baldwin.
Wow.
So that's a little known part of my experience, but we put on one of the great film festivals, it's the Hamptons Film Festival, every October. And I love that. That's a passion project, too.
Do you have a favorite movie?
I do.
And it is?
Okay. Well, for me, it's hard to name one.
I'm going to guess it's something having to do with the mafia.
Well, of course, Godfather 1 and 2 are classics on my top 5, but also To Kill a Mockingbird inspired me to become a lawyer, and Casablanca, the classic, and finally, It's a Wonderful Life, because it's not just a Christmas movie. It is a movie about how one person can change for the better so many people's lives. It's an inspiration.
It sounds like that's something what you're trying to do as deputy mayor.
I think it's something that those of us in this administration and the mayor himself are trying to do, and you know, it's what motivates us.
My last question: what's your favorite way to spend a lazy Sunday in New York? Or any place?
Well, you know, I live near Central Park, so and right across from the Metropolitan. So there's nothing better than a lazy day in the park and going to the great cultural institutions of our city.
Get it.
But it's also I admit it. I love film. I love TV. So my downtime is often spent, since I don't have much of it, enjoying a good movie or binging a TV show now that we have such wonderful shows streaming.
There you go. Randy Mastro, First Deputy Mayor, thank you for joining me, and thank you at home for joining me as well.